Hello everybody and welcome to another Premodern video. Today we're going to be playing one of my favorite decks in the format. It is super fun and in my opinion one of the most challenging decks to play. I have always loved this deck and I think it's really interesting and super rewarding, and for whatever reason I haven't really played it as much as I wish. So we're going to be fixing that today. And we're talking about none other than Elves. This is a deck that has been around the Premodern format. In fact, it was considered to be one of the best decks at one point when I joined the format almost 2 years ago now. I have always loved how intricate it is and how exciting it is to watch fantastic players like Ole Rad or Pablo Suarez pilot this deck because they do it so smoothly and everything looks perfect. I am actually making some interesting tweaks, which we're going to discuss real quick, but this is a very straightforward shell. We're playing 18 lands, some 4 copies of Gaea's Cradle, bunch of basic lands, and then Singleton Mountain because we are playing Anger, something that some players like Andrea Mengucci, who likes to dabble in Premodern, he has been trying with cutting Anger from the deck, which is kind of nice because not only it frees up the room from Anger, but also from the basic Mountain, and also this stupid Yavimaya Granger that you are kind of forced to have in your deck. But I think that the power level that Anger gives you is so incredible that it's worth including. We are going to be making some interesting adjustments though. First of all, one of my favorite cards in the entire format, Sylvan Library, makes an appearance here. I do like this card quite a bit in basically all my green decks, but in this one in particular because what this deck has is some really powerful and impactful cards. Obviously Survival of the Fittest, obviously Multani's Acolyte, which turns into an engine alongside Symbiote, but then it's kind of like drags a little bit after that. So Sylvan Library, what it does, it gives you another 2-drop that is kind of a must answer threat, and it threatens to take over the game otherwise. It gives you a lot of selection and it finds all of your synergy pieces. We are also going to be trying an interesting one in Thornscape Battle Mage. This is a card that I was not aware until my friend Mike Arnold told me that this was an elf, and it kind of blew my mind because it means that it can be bounced with Werewood Symbiote. So you can just go ahead and you can start like mowing down and dealing 2 damage to a bunch of different things, which, you know, another use for that basic mountain. And you can also start blowing up artifacts, which is another interesting ability. Alongside this, one thing that I always thought about this deck is that it has a lot of mana, but the difference between a 1-drop and a 2-drop mana producing is so massive that I wanted to have Birchlore Rangers, which does a couple of things. First of all, it is another quote-unquote mana-producing 1-drop that you can play, but it's a 1-drop in a weird way. So you can play it on turn 1, it doesn't tap for mana on that turn, but then on the following turn, if you play another 1-drop, and then you get to play a 2-drop, or if you play, you know, like a 2-drop and then you play a 1-drop, so it kind of nets you mana on turn 2, and then in all the subsequent turns from there as well, but it doesn't actually give you mana by itself, which is an interesting downside that it has. It does turn Multani's Acolyte, which are otherwise kind of useless, into mana, which is very cool. So I do like that access. We're only playing a singleton copy. I'm not sure that we want that many, but I think that this change in and of itself can be pretty dramatic. And what I cut for it was the 4th copy of Priest of Titania. And I know you're going to be thinking, okay, dude, like, what are you doing? You're not playing enough Priest. This is the best card in the deck, or blah blah. This card is obviously insane. Like, I'm not arguing against that. I'm just trying to see if by making the deck more 1-drop heavy, I am actually allowed to keep more hand. I want to see whether Birchlore Rangers actually switches the math in that sense, which it may not, or it may not be good enough, you know, but I still wanted to give it a shot. Also happens that this is a tutorable way to make red and white mana, which we don't really otherwise have, because sure, we can tutor for Yavimaya Granger to get our basic mountain, but that is going to enter tapped. So we can tutor for Birchlore and then immediately cast a Thornscape Battle Mage with the red kicker. That is the goal here. We then have, you know, like a bunch of one-offs in Masticorn and Tugu Vigilante, Kamal. I really enjoyed Kamal. I think that it's likely that it's not better than the other alternative, which is Tribal Force Mage. This guy right here is very interesting because you can play it preemptively, and then on the turn where you want to explode, it actually only costs 2 mana. So you can pay 3 and then 2 more to flip it to give +2/+2 to all the things of one creature type, which means it can pump your squirrels, which is kind of cute. It's much easier to cast, and then it can be bounced and replayed thanks to Werewood Symbiote. So it does have some very interesting synergies. I am still going with Kamal for this specific league, but I am open to the possibility, and I think the next time that I try out this deck, I'm going to try the Force Mage. Kamal is just so exciting to me, and I feel like it's kind of hard to play. And I love to see Ole Rad just going nuts with Kamal, so I kind of live that dream, but I'm very well aware that Tribal Force Mage may be the better alternative here. We also have only 3 copies of a Tangle Wire with the 4th one here, and this is a card that I have never liked in the deck, but right now combo is kind of at an all-time high, especially Replenish, and I have seen Elves players all over the place trying to keep up with that, and it's been challenging, and some people are innovating by playing Wastelands in the Nick Mayo was playing a Wastelands in his list at LobsterCon. Some people are playing white mana for Armageddon, which is what my counter was doing. So people are really trying things out in order to flip those combo matchups, but yeah, I'm not a fan of the card. I also considered playing just 3 copies of main deck Armageddon instead of the Tangle Wire, which I kind of like better. The problem is that if I were doing that, then I would need to play a basic planes in my main deck, which I have no interest in doing. Yeah, I feel like there's still some wiggle room and some things that are worth trying in that axis. So I am not excited about Tangle Wire, but I feel like it's more of a necessary evil these days. And in the sideboard we have, like the cards that you have always seen: Druid Lyris, 4 copies of Naturalize, Color of the Cloak, Tabi Orangutan, Genesis, and Masticore. Some people have been moving away from Genesis. I think that this is kind of the best Genesis deck in the format. Like, this is the deck where you actually do have the mana, which most other green survival decks you don't necessarily. It's very possible that it's not worth including anymore. The nice innovation was again by Andrea Mengucci, which is 3 copies of Call of the Herd and 2 Wall of Blossoms. This is mostly to help against specifically the Goblins matchup, but it also works out very, very well against decks like Sligh and stuff like that. So I have really been enjoying Call of the Herd in decks like this, and I feel like this was like a massive innovation. I don't think most folks, at least I have not seen Call of the Herd before Mengucci put it in the sideboard of Elves. Yeah, that's going to be it for this deck tech. This is the deck we're going to be playing. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you for round number 1. Here we are for round number 1. I wanted to point out that my content will always be free, but if you were interested in supporting what I do, you can do so in my Patreon, which you can find the link in the description down below, and also one that will show up at the very top over there. Let's go on to game number 1, and this hand is obviously not great. No lands, no good. This one's fine though, so let's keep this. Let's bottom with foothills. Obviously would like a 1-drop, but this is still fine. What do we have here? Portent. So if we find a 1-drop, we are going to be in pretty good shape, I think. It's not quite it, but it's okay. We can just play our forest and pass the turn. It's interesting what we do on turn 2. I think oh, my opponent misses a land drop. I think I'm going to drop a survival. If my opponent had held up counterspell, then I would have just played Multani Acolyte instead. But I don't think I play around days here, even though it's actually like a good spot for my opponent to use the days, but I think it's better to... Oh, no second land drop. That's probably good for us. Okay, so we still use this turn to drop survival. If my opponent has a daze, that time walks them, which is pretty good for us. They foil instead. Interesting. So I guess they found 2 lands on the top. It's a pretty good exchange for us. So if my opponent's missing land drop here, that's a fantastic exchange for us. So now we're going to get to play Llanowar and Multani Acolyte. Opponent's still missing land drops. Opponent did shuffle, notably. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Llanowar into Cradle, Multani Acolyte, send the turn back. It's a fun pickup. Opponent continues looking for land drop. Definitely getting pretty lucky here. My opponent did find another island, finally. We are going to pay for this upkeep cost. It's an interesting one. So let's play a fetch land and fetch. See if our opponent stifles or whatever. They don't. I guess I can't really play both. So I think I'd rather play out the Sylvan Library, and then we're just going to swing for 3. There's the Dreadnought. Vision Charm. Let's see what we got here. Finhorn Elves, not awesome. Vigilante, yes, awesome. I think I'm just going to shuffle here. So let's go. Let's lead on Vigilante. My opponent can have foil here, which would be quite problematic, to be honest. All right, cool. That resolved. So let's just shuffle now. And we get to swing for 3. And I think that I flip Vigilante on upkeep. So if my opponent has to use their... So they can have... It would be bad if they have Stifle. But if they have Vision Charm, that's a Time Walk. Looks like they don't have it. and that means that they get to look at one less card. My opponent has gotten pretty unlucky here. Got a little bit aggressive with the island, pitching the island to foil the survival, but you know, you kind of have to do what you gotta do. Okay, so let's bring in these Uktabi. Tangle wires also fantastic. Kind of interesting that this may work. We don't want Masticore. I don't think we want Kamal. Library seems kind of okay. Opponent seems to be a mono blue for what we've seen. Can cut a Acolyte. We could cut Granger. I guess on the draw I'd rather cut the Sylvan Libraries and maybe Deranged Hermit. I do like Deranged Hermit quite a bit. Like 9 power is almost enough to stop a Dreadnought, so I'm kind of into Deranged Hermit in this matchup. We could cut Granger. Yeah, let's do that. Maybe we should be cutting Anger instead of Granger. Let's keep this hand. Do love me a double survival hand. Opponent with the Portent. Never noticed how crazy like this whole section of the art is. Cast many important, never actually slow down to look at the art. Opponent doesn't shuffle and they draw. Play my land, play my symbiote, send the turn back. Turn 2 combo would be pretty rough here. That is the weirdest island art I've ever seen. It looks like a swamp. Doesn't even look like an island. I do wonder if it's worth it to play out the Wooded Foothills here, but I think I'm going to play out the Cradle instead. Okay, one just goes for it. Let's see what they do. Stifle. Okay, I'm going to go for Naturalize here. If they have Daze, that sucks, but that's very nice. So that allows me to play Finhorn first, and then just Naturalize here. I'm going to do it right now. If my opponent has Daze, that's brutal, but I don't think that it's better for me to like allow my opponent to untap and have Counterspell available. That may be even worse. Gosh, okay, that's desperation. Or they have the foil. They already have the foil. That sucks for me. They do have the foil. Okay, so now I'm hoping to find... My goal here is to find the Tangle Wire. That's not it. So this is 2 mana, play Survival, pitch Hermit to Survival, and 1 mana short of Uktabi Orangutan. I don't think I can Anger. I'm 1 mana short of going for Anger. If I get Quirion Ranger... Yeah, the issue is that I need to spend mana on the Survival, so I don't think I can actually do anything here. I guess what I can do is play Deranged Hermit. Yeah, okay, so we can fetch here. I guess I'm gonna get a Mountain. And then the goal is going to be cast Deranged Hermit, and I'm just gonna use all 4 squirrels to block the Phyrexian Dreadnought, which means only 4 trample through. We cannot beat Daze here, and we cannot beat Stifle. But this should buy me one turn, so we get to attack with Wirewood Symbiote. I guess I would want to go to 1. No, because that gives me 1 more mana with the Wooded Foothills. I'm trying to think if I can like make more mana with this Cradle. So put this in front. This means I take 6. And then I untap, and I have 1 more mana with Gaia's Cradle, but that destroys my Wooded Foothills, so I think it's better to just chomp with everything. So go down to 3, untap, we're gonna bounce the Hermit, see what we find. Basic Forest. It's not quite it, so I guess I do the same thing again now. Play the Hermit. Yeah, but now I'm actually further behind, because I cannot bounce this to untap. Yeah, I think I'm just dead here, because I need to throw in too much stuff under the bus. So I guess, trying to think how I can figure the situation out. I guess I have to swing here, might as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to block with everything, go down to 1, and then I have to hope that I draw an answer to the Dreadnought, and then I can play from there. So block with everything, go to 1, now we have to untap and draw something. That is not quite it. So I play Survival, pitch Quirion, but then for 2 mana, there's nothing that can save me. Yeah, we go into game number 3. Anything we want to change on the play? Nah, this is fine on the play. This hand looks pretty decent. We got some answers, we got some threats. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Opponent with the Portent, the nut draw. My best draw would be Gaia's Cradle. Priest of Titania would also be pretty nuts. I think I'm actually going to play Llanowar Elf, because like I can still double spell next turn, and this speeds up my mana pretty dramatically. Now I'm going to have 4 mana next turn. I can double spell. Turn to Dreadnought every time. So I think, ooh, that's a nice draw. Fine pickup. So let's go with Survival first. So if my opponent wants to use a foil, they have to use it here. That was kind of an insane draw, not gonna lie. So this is resolved. I think I'm just gonna Naturalize now. Force the foil. Yep, there it is. I guess we're going to pass the turn. Mistress Factory doesn't really do anything here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pitch this Thornscape to get Sligh, and then untap, pitch Sligh to get, I guess, Nantuko. So if my opponent has Counterspell, I'm probably screwed. So it's really a matter of what can I beat. I'm gonna have 5 mana, so I think I want to get Vigilante. Vigilante means I lose to Stifle. I guess I lose to Stifle regardless. Yeah, so I guess I take Vigilante. Can't beat Stifle, but Vigilante allows me to like time walk with Vision Charm, so at least I get that. So we're going to play a Morph here. Really do much else. Flash of Insight for 1. So they can't have foil now, so they daze. So I guess I just untap and pay for daze. And the reason to do it like this is so that I can spend 2 mana to flip now, and I also get my Sligh activation. And now we are fairly comfortable. I think we just get Symbiote now. Yeah, let's get Symbiote. And then send a turn back. Oh, opponent just concedes. This matchup is very much on the edges, and having drawn that Gaia's Cradle and like double survival, definitely very, very good. Like our hand lined up very well. My opponent's hand was also spectacular, to be fair. They had turn 2 combo on the play with foil backup, but we just had one better. Round number 2 against Demi. This is the kind of hand that I always see with Elves, where I'm just like, is this a keep or is this just a mulligan? I guess I'm gonna ship it. I guess this is a little bit better. Let's keep. I'm gonna bottom the Masticore. Windswept Heath. Burst of Paradise. Birchlore Rangers, baby. You don't see this one every day, huh? Next turn we can Multanis plus play a 1-drop. It's kind of sick. Wayfarer. So this is a deck that Demi has been working on, which is pretty wild. It's got some spicy stuff going on. I think I'm gonna offer the trade here. My opponent wants to take it. I'm happy. Survival's a fantastic draw, by the way. That port was pretty good one. Next port not gonna be so good though. Secluded Step. Another forest. So I think I'm gonna play Multani here, because if I find a 1-drop I can cast it. Another land. I think I just swing. If my opponent wants to trade Wayfarer, I'm kind of okay with that. He does take the trade. Seems fine to me. So if he Geddons now, I don't really care. Meddling Mage. I imagine this name's Survival. Makes total sense. Now we do get to pay for Echo. Now he ports. All good. Here's a Llanowar Elf. And I guess we're gonna serve. Takes the trade. Snaps it off. Very interesting. Second Meddling Mage. Kind of annoying. We're just gonna play the Range Hermit though. And if we haven't find the red source, we just kill the Meddling Mage, which is really sexy. We kind of have to watch out for Armageddon a little bit, but that's fine. Would have loved to have access to a Korean Ranger, but fortunately couldn't get there. Super punished by throwing away the Birchlore Rangers, by the way. Obviously it would have been a lot better now, but it's okay. Opponent takes some damage. Treva's. Okay, so I guess that my opponent is gonna get him now, which effectively kills the Deranged Hermit and leaves me with only a single green source. Terravor. That's a lot less bad for me. I think I'm paying Echo. Force my opponent to use the Source to Plowshares on my Deranged Hermit. It's a nice one. So I think I'm just going to swing with all the squirrels. My opponent can plow the Deranged Hermit, and I'm basically throwing a squirrel in front of the Meddling Mage, but that's fine. Yeah, this is pretty predictable, but it forces my opponent's hand, right? That's the strength of that line. Sandbagging the Foothills here. And I effectively lost only a single squirrel, but my opponent lost the Source to Plowshares. Ooh, they pay life. Interesting. Wasteland doesn't do anything. Does nothing, huh? That's surprising. So I can force my opponent to throw away a Wasteland, but I think it's much more valuable for me to kill the Meddling Mage, because I can just Thornstake Battle Mage and kill the Terravor. But I think I'd rather kill the Meddling Mage. I'm not gonna expose the Survival yet, until I have some activations to give. So I'm just gonna chill here. Opponent cycles. Well, I mean, we would lose to Armageddon here, I'll tell you that much. Because this Terravor is gonna get really big really quickly. I guess I did know about this, so this was already a 3-3. They played a land and fetched, so I'm assuming that they don't have Armageddon right now. Otherwise they would have get them before play the land. The good thing is my opponent can't really attack. Port my mountain, it's fine. Any creature at all? Tangle Wire. Yeah, I guess I'm playing that out. It's not like it's doing anything else. I hate this card. So if I swing with everything, opponent blocks here. Yeah, I guess I have to swing with everything. Just to try to pressure my opponent's life total. Stake 4. Okay, just play out Survival here. I think if my opponent has Naturalized, they have to naturalize the Tangle Wire anyway. So using my turn, using my mana to play out the Survival there seems reasonable. And now if we find any creature, we should be able, yeah, any creature off the top just wins. But yeah, we still got there by having a bunch of stupid 1/1s. So, what are we playing against? We're playing against a crazy deck. What do we want and what do we not want? I assume my opponent's gonna cut Armageddons. I guess I want a Genesis. Masticor sounds also reasonable against Wayfarer, against Birds, potentially Mother of Runes. Do we care about Tanglewire is the question. Actually, let's cut the Genesis. But Tanglewire is an interesting one. I think we want Wall of Blossoms. We may have to watch out for Pyroclasm if my opponent is splashing red. Call of the Herd is another interesting one. Uktabi for Mock, but I already have Thornscape. By the way, shout out to Thornscape being able to kill that Medley Mage to clear the way. And then that was pretty nice. So I'm just gonna cut the Tangle Wires here. Keep everything else. I could see wanting Uktabi, or I guess I want Uktabi because of potential Curse Totem. Interesting thought. Yeah, maybe I don't need Kamal, just because my creatures are gonna be largely bigger than my opponent's. This looks fine though. Seems like a fine start. 1-drop would be great. No 1-drop, but that's still fine. It's interesting what to play on turn 2. I could see arguments for Library or Wall of Blossoms. I don't think Survival is the play. That's a good one. I guess I go for Library. Because if my opponent wants to destroy my library, that means that they don't port me. Opponent pays 4, down to 16. Bird and Naturalize. Let's go Wall of Blossoms. Oh, nice. Into Fyndhorn Elves. That was a great draw. So now that's going to unlock my mana, which is cool. No life paid. I guess the top of the deck was not kind. Swords to Plowshares on the Fyndhorn Elves would be quite annoying. It's just funny that Wall of Blossoms just lines up so well against what he's doing. Can't play Survival. Here's another wall. Quirion Ranger. Untap. Bounce. Replay. I guess I shouldn't have done that there. That was a mistake. Tiny Sacolite. Yep, that's why I shouldn't have done that there. Wirewood Symbiote. Untap here. Pay 1. Play Birchlore. Send the turn back. Next turn, can we do nuts things with Kamal? Not sure if we have lethal because these stupid walls don't attack. We may be able to like do some little overrunning. Because this would be 6 mana. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we should have enough to overrun. Once again, he played land. Okay, another Call of the Herd. I'm super scared. Wall of Blossoms doing work here. Wall of Blossoms putting in the work. Now we're gonna start to do all the nasty stuff with Multani's Acolyte and Gemstone Mine in the port deck. Always so brutal. Hey, look at that. Let's lead on Acolyte, Llanowar. So now we get to play Priest. So what I'm trying to do here is to try to not overextend, because I don't need to. And then next turn I can activate Kamal 3 times. So I can just, draw some cards here, float a mana, untap this again, bounce Multani, cast Multani again. I can create 2 mana. I guess I can play both Elves because of this. So play Llanowar, play another Forest, play Fyndhorn, and pass the turn. I'm not playing around Pyroclasm. If he has Pyroclasm, he's got me. And now next turn I play Cradle and I just do everything in a single turn. Just kill him. Flashback Call of the Herd. Somehow, I don't think that's going to be enough. Somehow, don't think that's going to cut it. Bounce Multani on end step. And gonna tap and do some stuff. Yeah, he's just trying to do what he can, but doesn't quite add up too much. Draw, play Quirion, make 8 mana, untap, bounce Acolyte, recast Acolyte, play land, cast Kamal. Activate some other overruns. Just some dudes. Just some dudes doing some dude things. And we untap, and we go to combat, and we serve. 69! Nice! Minus 69. Perfect. Round number 3, speaking the wonders of the basic mountain. This one's pretty saucy. I guess I'd rather keep the other Llanowar Elf style card and hold on to the Gaia's Cradle. Just bottom the basic forest instead. Alright, here's a Symbiote. Here's a Survival. All of that seems to have resolved. It's good for the good guys. Sapphire Medallion. So probably facing Storm, I would say. I think we're just gonna go for Sligh anyway here. We can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. That's neat. So if I play that, this means that I get to go play Llanowar Elf, play land, tap this for 3, then use survival to pitch Sligh, get my Vigilante, spend 3 mana to cast the Morph, and then untap Findhorn by bouncing the Llanowar Elf, and then fetch, get my Mountain, turn this around right now, and blow up the Medallion, and get in there for 1. It's also cool that we can cash these Llanowar Elves, and if my opponent has another Medallion style card, they have Helm of Awakening. So can I find a line that allows me to use Thornscape Battle Mage to blow this up? I guess I have a ton of mana now, because I can just pitch Sligh for Anger, pitch Anger for Quirion. I guess I need to play the Quirion first. So pitch Sligh, get Quirion Ranger, play Quirion Ranger, untap Findhorn, use Quirion to untap Findhorn, bounce in the forest. This way we can replay the forest. We can also now play another Wirewood Symbiote, kind of going off a little bit here. Untap Findhorn, bouncing Quirion Ranger, replay Quirion. Guess I didn't really need to do that, huh? Now we can pitch Survival for Anger, tap for 5, pitch Anger. We can get Kamal, because I still have this Quirion Ranger that I can untap my Gaia's Cradle with. 6 mana to play Kamal. Oh, Kamal costs 1 less. That's perfect. So 5 mana Kamal. Now we're going to use Quirion Ranger to untap the Findhorn Elves, bouncing the forest. That is going to make Cradle into a creature. Then we untap Cradle with Wirewood Symbiote. Untap here. I'm assuming my opponent has no interaction, by the way. So target land becomes a 1/1 creature. Now we untap this by bouncing the Quirion Ranger. I guess I should have bounced the Findhorn Elves because I'm not going to untap it. This is going to be 6 mana, and this is going to be an overrun. Oh, my opponent has interaction? Oh, I'm screwed. Oh, they have Cradle. That sucks. I guess I may die now. That's fine. This was a lot of fun to figure out, though. And my land was pretty good. I think it was actually lethal right now. Yeah, it would have been lethal this turn. That was Stormcount 5, too, funnily enough. Let's see if Will has it here. Turnabout. Huh, you don't see Storm decks always having Turnabout. It's not a super common one. Meditate. It's possible they should have gone for the alternative line of just blowing up the Helm. I just got excited by being able to percent lethal. But I could have just gone for... used both of my creatures to get Virtual Rangers plus the Thornscape, and that would have basically prevented my opponent from winning, which is kind of the same as winning myself. So now Will's got infinite mana. Going to be a matter of, does he have the spells that matter? That's another Meditate. Snap, same dude. So he needs to find either 2 Brain Freezes or a Storm of 15. Merchant Scroll. This one should be able to get at least one of the Brain Freezes. There he goes. That is not enough, but a second one would be lethal. Okay, he does have the second. Cool. So, we want these Naturalizes, this Uktabi Orangutan, and potentially this Tanglewire. Don't think we want this Masticore. Don't think we want these libraries. Probably don't need Kamal. And I'm just gonna cut 2 Acolytes. This is not gonna be a grindy kind of matchup. Okay, I guess. Kind of very underpowered. I think that's fine though. We can go turn 1 Elf, maybe turn 2 Wire, or turn 2 Acolyte, depending on what Will does. If we go for Wire, that's a great draw. Yeah, I think we go for Wire here. This is going to represent multiple time walks, and then we also have the Naturalize to boot. So I think this is going to buy us a reasonable amount of time. So you always want to stack your triggers so the fading counter happens first. That's a fine pickup. So now we can go for casting the Multani's Acolyte. Gives us another piece of something in play, digs us a little bit deeper into the deck, something we can tap to the Tanglewire. So here he gets to use, yeah, he gets to do one of these like snap style tricks, which is obviously pretty good. Oh wait, is snap just bugged? Why did it work earlier though? Oh, he did misclick. Well, the idea was there. We're going to, I think we're gonna pay the Echo here. We get to pay the Echo and then just cast our Llanowar and just tap Acolyte and Wire. Play our Elf, send the turn back. Would have been very nice to find a Quirion Ranger right there. So now he taps 2 lands. It's pretty nice that we have the Naturalize. So if he decides to play one of his thingies, we got it covered. Hey yo, here's the Ranger. Let's play Findhorn. Let's untap, replay my land, play Multani. Another wire would have been nice, but unfortunately I'm just going to need to spend this turn holding up Naturalize. Pretty well telegraphed Naturalize, by the way. AK. That is acceptable. One land gets tapped. Cloud of Fairies. Just honestly cast. I guess that's something to tap to another Tangle Wire. Not terrible, honestly. So we stack our triggers. Fading first, then Echo. Then the wire doesn't do anything. Float a mana. Untap. Bounce, replay my land, play Tangle Wire, go to combat. We're just gonna serve with the two Acolytes, because I still need the Korean Ranger for mana purposes here. Hibernation. Gonna be discarding one of these Hermits, and I guess one of these Acolytes. Very smart of me to tap my mana in this fashion, I must say. That's the turn. Now so this Fading trigger we want to be the very last one to go on the stack. That way we can use the other, just the Tangle Wire that's sitting in play in order to tap to the first Tangle Wire before this one goes away. So tap 3 things. Now the other Tangle Wire dies. Fine pickup. Here's a Korean Ranger. Here's a Llanowar Elf. Here's a Cradle. Send the turn back. Just like that, we're kind of back in it, even after the Hibernation resolved. This card always feels like it's underwhelming in my experience. So we got our Fading. We got our do the tapping. That's cool, that's cool. So here's a Finhorn Elves, here's an Acolyte, play a land, fetch for my mountain. Now we can go tap a lot of mana to play a Morph, wire with Symbiote, and I guess we can untap this, but we cannot really use the mana, so we're just going to attack. So another Hibernation into combo would be a problem. Cycle the Cloud of Fairies, that one I can beat. Does nothing and passes the turn, huh? Gonna bounce the Acolyte and untap. That way we don't have any nonsense. Tap to the Tangle Wire. Okay, that's a card, I guess. Cannot really assemble lethal here, so I want to use my creatures to play around another Hibernation. These are not great, so let's just cast Hermit. Oh, I guess I should have just like bounced and recast, huh? Just untapped here by bouncing this guy and just cast it again. We haven't played a land yet. We swing for 4 this turn and attack for lethal on the next one. I guess that's the plan. I guess it's free to cast this guy, huh? So might as well send the turn back. Once again, my opponent can Hibernation here. It's just an AK. Bunch of AKs. Starting the turn with 10 cards in hand is very sexy. I approve. He has to be able to win from here, right? Kind of awesome that my Vigilante kind of plays around Hibernation by being a Morph. Starting off with Turnabout. Let's go, baby. Meditate. I have to assume he's gonna have enough from here. He doesn't even need the mana rocks. He's just going off without them. Oh, Flash of Insight. Oh, so sexy. It's kind of really good in the Storm deck. I don't remember having seen it. Maybe it was in some sideboards. It does look really good though. This is the most honest Storm combo I've ever seen. So fair. There's nothing broken about this. Lotus Veil is very sexy. This is the kind of situation where if I were playing in paper, I would just say, okay, just show me your hand or whatever. Good old Clouds, Chain of Vapor, the own Cloud of Fairies. That's actually kind of nice. They can just bounce every single Cloud of Fairies for one storm per mana. That's pretty cool. There's the free. Does he have the second one? He does. That was cool. Kind of an interesting approach. Like he just cited out all of his, I guess he's just relying on Lotus Veil. That's very cool. Because then I ended up having like a bunch of naturalizes that didn't add up to anything. And instead he just comboed off on turn 9. So that was really cool. Very nice pivot to see from the Storm deck. Alright, see you in the next one. Round number 4. This hand would be Snapkeep if I had a survival, but this is effectively a mull to 5 because I have both of these creatures. This hand is much better. We're gonna bottom the redundant Symbiote. Turn 1 Wooded Foothills is certainly scary. So I guess it's better if I lead on Wirewood Symbiote. I could have led on Birchlaw Rangers, but then if I do that, then we're still in a worst case scenario. Pretty brutal. Oh my god, that's a disaster. So this is all dead cards that I have in hand. So let's play Birchlaw first. Then I'll play Cradle. Play Ranger, we're gonna threaten. So now if he wants to prevent me from making any mana, he needs to crack the Mog Fanatic right now. And if he doesn't, then I just get to deploy Wirewood Symbiote. That makes sense. So next turn we're gonna have to play this Symbiote. So my opponent seems to just be on Sligh. Haven't really seen anything particularly spicy over there. Let's play Symbiote first, and then I'm going to play this Acolyte. So now if he wants to, he needs to use removal on the Symbiote right now. And okay, it's not the worst. What I really want to draw is the survival of the fittest. That is how we get out of this complicated situation we find ourselves in. So here I'm going to actually pay the Echo, which effectively means that's a terrible draw. But that Echo pay there effectively means that I'm trading the I'm forcing my opponent to use the thing right there. Yeah, I think we do this. Cost me a Cradle, which obviously sucks, but so now I can use the Cradle to tap for the Multani Acolyte here. I think after I pay the Echo, my opponent should have cracked the Mog Fanatic to kill the Acolyte. Okay, so there's a survival. We are still at 20. If my opponent offers the trade, I'll take it. I'll just block with Acolyte. This means I don't need to pay the Echo. My opponent should have just pinged and killed the other Acolyte. We want to draw any creature. Okay, so let's swing. At least no Vortex. No Vortex is good for us. So any creature we draw can allow us to get out of this. When it just cracks the ring, I don't know if I agree with that. There's no need to do that. Now we need to draw any creature at all. Perfect. So pitch that. Get Squee. Pitch Squee. Anger. I guess I could just get Crayon Ranger. I think I'll just get Anger and pass the turn. And now I put my opponent in an awkward spot because, like, yeah, my opponent can just shock my face, but they're not really achieving anything. And, I mean, this is only 4 activations that this Levimancer has. They don't have infinite activations. So now this Anger is going to get pitched to go get Maya Granger. Forgot the name. Now we get back Squeep. It's not bad at all. Play the Granger. Go get my Mountain. And I guess I might as well serve. We're chilling at 16 here. Pretty healthy life total. Now we send the turn back. Shock's Face. Gets a land. Interesting. So let's pitch here. I guess this one gets Crayon Ranger. So I don't pay for Echo. We get back Squee. We play Quirion. This way we get to hit our land drop. And now we drop the Range Hermit. This unlocks my mana. And now we get to attack with everything. This is a huge win for us, because now we don't have to pay Echo on the card. Our Gaia's Cradle is going ballistic now. And then that's also 2 damage that we're not taking. So I think now this game is locked. Double Fire Blast plus Lavamancer plus Bolt or something like that. I don't even know if that's enough. That's a heck of a lot of mana. So just make some manases here. We can just use Kamal. Do we have enough mana? Yeah, we do. So this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we have way more than enough. And there we go. Cool. Got there game 1, and then come the spicy numbers. We get some Wall of Blossoms, we get... we don't want Tangle Wires. Honestly, I don't think we need Kamal. Genesis is interesting. Not sure if we need Genesis, but it's definitely a card worth thinking about. Masticore I like also. Some amount of Naturalizes I do think I want to have access to. We have Battle Mage. How do we want to split the difference? Here is the question. I guess Hermit can go. Bring another Masticore in. Naturalize / Druid Lyris. That's the question. Vortex is the single card that I'm the most scared of. Because we want Color of the Claw. That Multani Acolyte, by the way, did so much work. It's kind of insane. Let's cut Priest. Bring in Druid Lyris. And bring in the Genesis over Acolyte. Let's go with this. We may need to make some adjustments after we see how my opponent sideboards. Huh. Yeah, I think we keep this. If we find any land at all, we're going to be in really good shape. So I think we keep this. We really want to dodge the Pup. Seal of Fire. Perfect. That's any land at all. So now we're going to play Quirion. And this is basically like a Lightning Rod for removal. Pup. My opponent should crack right now. I don't know why they don't. I can just play Gaia's Cradle and then this can potentially get out of hand so quickly for them. Yeah, they have to crack it immediately. Play Wall of Blossoms and say go. Fine. Pick up. My best draw now would be Call of the Herd. If I find Call of the Herd, I'm going to be feeling like a gazillion bucks. Definitely block here. If my opponent wants to throw a removal spell at this, pretty happy about that. Very interesting. So we're going to play Priest, which is a threat that my opponent needs to respect. And oh, I misclicked. I'm an idiot. I played out the Mountain. I meant to play out the Cradle. That was kind of horrendous mistake. That may cost me big. My goal there was to play Survival and to play Priest in the same turn, which I could have done with Cradle. So that's a potentially game-losing misclick right there. Opponent should attack. Basically a free attack. Earthquake would be pretty good. They let me untap with Priest. Kind of huge. Okay, so how do we go about? Play Acolyte first. Because it doesn't really change anything in terms of playing the Cradle. Because my opponent can now kill it in response, which they should, which means I cannot. But if they don't, I can just tap the Priest for more mana. And now we have a bunch of mana. We get to play Survival. Pitch Yavimaya Granger. Get Squee. Pitch Squee. Get Anger. Pitch Anger, get Symbiote, play Symbiote. Now my opponent needs to use the removal spell right now, otherwise they cannot touch the Priest anymore. And I'm at 17 with my opponent having 3 cards in hand. I feel like I cannot lose from here. So let's swing here. I'll just pass the turn. The amount of work this Wall of Blossoms has done is kind of unreal. Opponent plays Barbering, doesn't really do anything. I wonder if at some point my opponent should have just killed the Wall of Blossoms. Like, this Wall of Blossoms did incredible work. I'm sold on Wall of Blossoms being the truth against Sligh. So untap this, bouncing the Acolyte. Like, what is my opponent supposed to do? How are they beating this? So now I have a gazillion mana. I guess I get Quirion Ranger here to have even more mana. Squee comes back, play Acolyte, draw cards. Oof, oh baby. Play Quirion Ranger. The herd is here. You've heard it first. Get it? Heard it? We're going off. More mana. Float more mana. More untaps. More Acolytes. More. More elves. More elephants. We have to be able to kill from here, right? We've gotta. I guess we cut Kamal. We still have the Range Hermit though. Just Masticore. Yeah, Masticore's sexy enough, I guess. No blockers for you, my friend. They also take 1 from the pop. Value. We're gonna serve with everything minus the Finhorn Elves. This is lethal, so my opponent needs to do something about this. Lightning Bolt my Elephant. Resolves. And pass the turn. I don't think there's any draws that my opponent can have here that allow them to win this game. Unless there's a price of progress for creatures that I'm not aware of. This was kind of an unreal showing of the power of this deck. Especially in a matchup like Sligh, which is supposed to be pretty bad, but that looked kind of remarkably good for us. Alright, see you in the next one. Round number 5. Got a pretty good hand here. Let's keep it. We have some early drops, we have Survival. Second Library, not the best, but okay. So we're playing against another red deck. I guess if my opponent attacks, I just block. Would really love to find another land here. But I'm not gonna take a free point of damage. My opponent has the option to just crack it and kill my Finhorn Elf whenever they want. This looks like Sligh once again. That's very unfortunate. If I had found any land there, I think I spend that turn to play Sylvan Library as a way to guarantee that I'm going to be hitting my land drops. There comes the pup. Vortex is probably the absolute worst case scenario here. This game is going a lot worse than the previous match that we played against Sligh. This time my opponent had everything they needed, so I guess I'm taking the hit here, and I force my opponent to use removal spell. Cradle. Okay, so I guess we have to spend this turn to play the Survival. I just noticed we have nothing to pitch to Survival. Kind of devastating, if I'm being honest. I guess I should have, honestly, I didn't even think about that. Like, I should have just played out the Sylvan Library. Okay, I can never raise this. So let's just go to the next game. Okay, so let's take this silly Tangle Wires out of here. Take out Kamal. Bring in Call of the Herds. Bring in Wall of Blossoms. Take out the Sylvan Libraries. Color of the Claw. Octavia Orangutan is an interesting one. I think I want Masticore just because it's hard to kill. And oh, the Acolytes. I guess I'd rather have Druid Lyris. This looks fine. I don't think I want Naturalizes. Maybe I want Octavi over the other guy, but I don't know. This hand looks great. I think I'd rather play this Symbiote if my opponent needs to kill it. So let's play out the Symbiote. It doesn't really ramp me, but this Quirion Ranger doesn't ramp me either. So by playing out the Symbiote, I force my opponent to use removal spell on it. They immediately kill the Symbiote, which makes sense because they want to stop Cradle mana. But I'm going to spend this turn to play out the Survival. And then next turn we can get going. There's a Mog Fanatic, another Seal. Huh, that's an interesting one. So I think I'm going to play Cradle this turn, and I'm gonna play out the Crayon Ranger just so it gives me Cradle mana. And then I'm going to pitch the Vigilante, because I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be able to raise the Vortex if my opponent has it. So here we're going to block. We have to make sure that we use Survival now. And now we're going to start drawing some cards. Now we use Sligh. I think we're just going to... We're gonna get the Yavimaya Granger just to continue hitting my land drops here. Sligh comes back. Yeah, this is great. So play Yavimaya Granger, go get a mountain, pass the turn back. Opponent does nothing there. Interesting. So let's pitch here. And let's go get Anger. Here we're gonna get back Sligh. And while we still have this mana, we're gonna pitch Anger. We can go get Color of the Claw, which is an interesting one. Or I can just go get Masticore. I think I want to go with Masticore. So now that dies. Play a land. Let's fetch. Get a basic forest. Play Masticore. Play Llanowar Elf. And we're going to start racing, I guess. We're at virtual 11. My opponent may have enough lethal damage in hand at this point. Okay, so we're dead to a bunch of things here. Fire Blast, Double Lightning Bolt, but there are also a bunch of things that don't really do anything. We can't really gain life, unfortunately, but can we assemble lethal? Or at least force my opponent. We can use the range Hermit. Yeah, let's go get Hermit. So what this is going to do is it's going to force my opponent to use a removal spell on the Hermit. Otherwise, my opponent's going to take too much damage. Here, we're going to pay the Masticore upkeep. So as is, we have 9, 14 damage. We do have enough, so we can force my opponent to do something about this. I can go get Symbiote and bounce the same Hermit, or I can simply go get a second Hermit. I think I'm going to go with a second Hermit, and off we go. So if my opponent doesn't have lethal, I mean, that would be like a pretty big slow roll. So I'm assuming they don't have lethal here. But yeah, so here I would be forcing my opponent to like crack the Seal of Fires to kill both of my range Hermits, which means that they are not going to have enough to actually finish me off. Okay, we got there, and now on to the last. Do I want to make any changes? I don't think so. I don't love the Thornscape Battle Mage, but this is an answer to Grim Lavamancers, which can be a problem. The only thing is Uktabi is just 1 mana easier to cast, which can be relevant, especially when I'm on the draw. I think I'm going to go with Thornscape though. Nah, let's actually go with Uktabi. Like if I need to answer an artifact, I don't want to need to rely on the white source, so the Virtual Ranger, to give me white mana. Well, if I find a land, this hand is spectacular. It is a little bit of a mulligan, but like if I get this out of here, then this is a fantastic hand. So I'm gonna keep this, and if my opponent, like if I never find another land drop, then I'm going to be very, very sad. That's not a land drop, and here we go. The moment of truth. I think if I hit a land drop, I win. And if I don't hit a land drop, I think I'm going to lose. Any land that's not a Cradle will do. Okay, I'm gonna lose. That is super rough. Maybe I should have mulligan. Maybe it's just so important to have your second land drop in this matchup. Like, you just cannot afford for this to ever happen. So it's simply just correct for me to just mulligan any hand that does not have 2 lands. I could definitely see that being the case. I guess I should have shipped that hand. I feel like even at that point, if I find any land drop, I can potentially get there. Like, it's going to be super rough, but can maybe get there thanks to the double wall. But now it's just too far behind. Like, it's just too much free damage my opponent has been dealing me. I should have just mulliganed. But yeah, from now on, I think every time I get paired against Sligh, I'm simply going to mulligan any hand that does not have 2 lands. On to the last round, we're on the draw, and this hand looks pretty decent. I can do some stuff. We're gonna start off just a casual Llanowar Elf on turn 1. Opponent opts in response. Maybe they'll daze this, that would be awesome. Yes. Obviously, I'm excited about this because this sets my opponent back by a turn. And I already have like a redundant piece, right? So by doing that, now I get to go for Priest of Titania, blue and white, Meddling Mage. So that, I imagine that's gonna name Survival, but that's not really that big of a deal because we're gonna have like a pretty healthy amount of mana here. So here's my Fyndhorn Elves, make 2 mana, make that, play that again, untap, make 2 mana, it's a Kamal. Mox Diamond. Okay, so we're playing against Gro-a-Tog then. There's a Korean Ranger. This tells me no counterspell, by the way, because of how my opponent tapped their mana there. Going to untap here. And no counterspell means that we get to continue doing Multani's Acolytes things. Here's Fyndhorn. Make 3 mana. Play Acolyte. Draw a card. Yeah, Alright, so we're going to untap Priest. Now we get to recast Multani's Acolyte with Finhorn Elves. Ooh, baby. We're making some mana here. Play this out. Then untap Priest again. Cast Acolyte again. Gonna make 5 mana here. Play Symbiote first. Then we will cast with Red Kicker. This will kill the melee mage. Oh, the Jixen Seed. Cool. Actually, maybe it was better for me to kill the Quirion Dryad here, just to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand. There we go. Thornscape Battle Mage. Let's go. So we're playing against Gro-a-Tog deck. I don't care for Tanglewire, and I think Genesis is good. Actually, don't think we need Kamal either. Uktabi seems reasonable. I love the libraries. I think I want a second copy of Masticore. And I guess my opponent could have Fire and Ice, so I'm going to bring in Color of the Claw. I think I'm cutting the Birch Lore. Well, I guess I have to respect Engineered Plague, so I'm going to bring in Druid Lyrist. And let's cut a couple of one of the 1-drop Elves. Priest of Titania. Once again, this is going to be a matchup where I want to make sure that I'm just drawing a bunch of lands. Well of Blossoms actually sounds pretty reasonable to me. Let's bring this in. Cut 1 Acolyte. Maybe Color of the Claw is just medium. Let's just go. No, I actually do want the Range Hermit, so let's cut the Color of the Claw, I guess. My opponent could have Fire and Ice, and they could have Engineered Plague. So those are the 2 cards that I'm going to be thinking about here. No lander. Easy ship. Down to 5. Yeah, this looks reasonable. I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna bottom the Range Hermit. And we're gonna go turn 1. Yeah, definitely the Werewood Symbiote, because I want to protect the Quirion Ranger. I could play out the Ranger first, which can allow me to play Priest of Titania on turn 2, but I think I like this better. Opponent goes for the Mage, naming Survival. Makes sense, would love to find a land here. No land, but that's okay. We can still do some of this. Now my opponent can go Fire and Ice, kill both Werewood Symbiotes. That would suck, but this deck have actually been moving away from Fire and Ice, which I find quite interesting. Looks like we get to untap, so just going to cast the Priest. My opponent can use Counterspell here, they can use Daze. It doesn't really matter, but I kind of value Multani's Acolyte a little bit higher than this Priest of Titania here. And cashing it in for a Counterspell seems decent, especially when my opponent has no clock to speak of. And of course, at any point, if I draw a Cradle, we just completely get out of hand. There's the Quirion Dryad. Opponent still can't attack, so playing the slow game here, but okay, there we go. So now we're cooking, getting ourselves away from this hole. Fire and Ice killing both symbiotes. It's quite good. That's quite good. So I'm not going to be able to pay for the Echo, so I'm just going to bounce the Multani's Acolyte there. That's a very good, very clean Fire Ice. Gonna shoot the turn back. Untap. Man, I wish I could get a red source there, but I'm going to play out the Acolyte. So now we're going to be able to cast Call of the Herd next turn. Melee Mage. So we're not going to be paying for Echo, so I'm simply just going to chomp block this Quirion Dryad. Let's see if my opponent names Thornscape Battle Mage here. They name Multani's Acolyte. It's much more valuable for me to have an Elephant token in play. So here's the Elephant. Send the turn back. Swords my Elephant. Okay, so this is going to be the moment of truth here. Second Quirion Dryad is not that big of a deal. That into cantrip is a little bit more of a big deal. So I may need to Thornscape Battle Mage the Quirion Dryad, actually. Because we're going to be taking 9 damage now, which is a lot. So I guess it's more valuable for me to stop this second threat from outclassing me. Opponent did not choose to shuffle. Let's see if we can draw Gaia's Cradle. Looks like we can't. So let's cast it with Red Kicker, kill the Quirion Dryad, and I guess I'm going to pass. I think I'm probably taking a Quirion Dryad hit if my opponent allows me to. Yeah, that's a good Fire and Ice. That does put me in a little bit of an awkward spot. So now I have to chomp block, take 4. We do get to play out the Range Hermit, which is not nothing. So fetch, play Hermit. This is going to buy us pretty decent amount of time because it represents a ton of chomp blockers. Psycho Dog. Yeah, all of those can be chomped. So we're going to pay Echo. Hopefully find a land. Perfect. So now we get to go Symbiote. This means we're going to be able to make a ton of dudes now. Also my Hermit is unkillable. AK. Opponent's being able to cantrip a lot here. I can also use the Hermit to block bounce, which is pretty nice. So we get a free block there. We're going to be able to double or squirrel. Really? So this is a free block. And that one is as well. So here my opponent needs to pump at least 1 into the Tog. And now we just bounce here. So the question now is whether we play around we get to choose whether we want to play around Engineered Plague, because Engineered Plague on Squirrel means that I have no more defenses. I don't know if Gro-a-Tog has been playing Engineered Plague as of late, so I think I'm gonna go for Hermit, because by playing out Hermit, that allows me to, let's get in there, and by playing out the Hermit, that allows me to play around Melee Mage. I guess Engineer Plague by itself is not enough. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bounce my, untap a Squirrel by bounce it the Birchlaw Rangers. So now if they name Squirrel, then they don't name Elf, so I still have 1/1 Squirrels. And now we just win. Because we just go around all of my opponent's creatures. We just pay Echo on the Deranged Hermit and we just swing for lethal. That was fun. Definitely not expecting this game to go this way, but I'm happy it did. I'm trying to think if there's anything that can get around this, but I don't think there is. Yeah, okay, we got there. That was kind of a roundabout way to win this game. Really shows the power of the Elves deck. That was cool. That was a lot of fun. And there we go. We ended up with a 4-2 record. Not bad. This deck is crazy amounts of fun. I think it's very interesting. We didn't really get to see the impact of the Sylvan Library that we were trying out, but everything else worked out really well. Like, this card really impressed me. Thornscape Battle Mage did so much work. It basically ate Meddling Mages for breakfast. It killed the Quirion Rangers in that very last match, which was pretty impressive. Quirion Dryad, sorry. Regarding Kamal, I'm kind of on the verge figuring out that maybe the Tribal Force Mage is the better alternative. I think we had one situation where Kamal was enough. When we got paired against Will, I think it would have gone either way, like regardless of which one. Actually, maybe Kamal would have allowed us to kill there, which we went for lethal, and then he had the snap, so he messed us up. But just having access to Kamal can give you some pretty powerful lines, especially when you have access to Gas Cradle as well. But I do understand that it's possible that Tribal Force Mage is just the better card. There's also like the random value that you get for bluffing Tribal Force Mage when you want to represent that you have access to Nantuko Vigilante. So that morph value right there alongside Birchlaw's Ranger, this is like morph Elves or something like that, which is pretty funny. I didn't really miss the Priest of Titania. Yes, we had less explosive turns, but also we didn't really need them because we had access to like more reliable mana, and especially Quirion Ranger did a lot of work. Very, very impressive card in this deck. Finally, lands are the only thing that I always wonder if I want to have access to one more land or even one land in the sideboard. I don't think it's at all crazy to just have a singleton basic forest in the sideboard, especially when we got paired against Sligh, and both of the games we lost. Of course, game one we didn't know we were getting paired against Sligh, so we just kept one lander with 2 1-mana elves, and obviously both died immediately. But being able to have more lands allowing you to just cut down on 1-mana elves, because like we saw when we got paired against Sligh and I did hit my land drops, I just landed a survival and the game ended. Like, your opponent simply cannot keep up with what you're doing. So that puts them in a situation where they have to, if they don't do anything, you kill them faster than they kill you. And like, we were in a situation where my opponent was even forced to, and they were, refusing to kill my Wall of Blossoms. And that Wall of Blossoms ended up just, killing them. Just being an 0-4 and sitting in play dealt enough damage to their game plan that it was just spectacular. It just drew me a card, it stayed there to give me mana for Cradle, and it also just prevented my opponent from cashing their Jackal Pup for damage. So the Wall of Blossom looked super, super impressive. But yeah, obviously Survival of the Fittest is the most important card, and this is how we win the burn matchup apparently. And by having just natural land drops, you end up in a situation where you can use survival or like leverage survival more reliably, especially once you get Anger in the graveyard. I feel like it's not crazy to have a singleton basic forest, and then in matchups like against the Rock or stuff like that, where you want to be cutting maybe some number of Finhorn Elves, Landward Elves, Quirion Ranger style cards, we can cut some of these and like bring in our Call of the Herd, Wall of Blossoms, more lands, and that can actually be an interesting game plan. Even if I were playing let's say if I were playing like the version that splashes white for Armageddon, if I were doing that, I would definitely in those matchups, even if I don't bring in Armageddon, I still think that I would be bringing in the extra land to go up to 19 when sideboarding against a deck like Burn, for example. So I feel like this was a pretty insightful. I feel like I learned a lot from this specific league, obviously because I was watching out for learning moments, but it was very cool to see. But that's gonna be it for me today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button on the way out. And if you would like to support my content, it will always be free, of course. But if you would like to support what I do, you can do so in my Patreon, which you can find a link in the description of the video down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Long live Premodern, and bye-bye.